Hey guys, welcome to today's episode, and I'm so excited we have Ben Morter, and our topic today is all about how to hydrate and heal. We're going to be talking about chronic dehydration, we're going to be talking about oxidative stress, and you won't want to miss it. So Ben, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so let's dive right in and let's talk about, I think I heard a study that was just crazy. It was like that over 90% of Americans are dehydrated. There's all these different ones out there. First of all, why is it that we're more dehydrated than we've ever been?
I think that there's a few different reasons. One is just our extremely busy lifestyle. People are, and also our options for drinking fluids, right? People aren't prioritizing drinking fluids and good fluids as much as they used to. Another thing that can actually lead to dehydration that people don't think about as much as an impaired thirst mechanism. This can be a symptom of chronic inflammation and also just of aging in general, and long-term longitudinal DNA damage. When you have an impaired thirst mechanism, your body is not going to properly tell itself to go seek out drinking more fluids when it should. Those signals get thrown off. So it is becoming more and more prevalent. People are paying more and more attention to it. Chronic dehydration, it does, like you said, it affects a huge percentage of the population and kind of unknowingly to many people.
Yeah. And I think that people don't realize, a lot of people are drinking coffee and sodas with caffeine, or maybe the night before they had alcohol and then they wake up in the morning, then they're having coffee, and they don't realize the coffee, the sodas, and the caffeine are a huge issue in dehydrating you. And people are just not even thinking about drinking water until kind of later in the day. And they're filling up with, all this coffee and tea in the morning, which is actually making you more dehydrated.
Yeah, big time, and there's multiple different kinds of dehydration, and specifically those things you mentioned, like a lot of those diuretics, right? They are fluid that you're putting in your body, right? But what those really do is throw off the balance of sodium to water in your system, right? To where you're going to have either excess or not enough sodium ratio to the water in your system, right? So that's where, it really does lead to a lot of issues for people.
Did you guys know that 97% of Americans are deficient in at least one mineral? It's true. You need more than a dozen minerals for your body to function at its best. But with the standard American diet, it's almost impossible. So here's where Beam Minerals comes in. Guess what? All you have to do, take one little shot of this one little shot of this one, and guess what? It looks like this, but it tastes like water. Take one shot and boom, in 30 seconds a day, you're getting an entire thing of minerals instead of an entire cabinet of supplement bottles. So with Beam Minerals, we make mineral balance simple. Yeah, and a lot of people, are doing a lot of crazy diets right now, like maybe they're doing the keto diet, or even, obviously, I'm a huge fan of intermittent fasting.
Me too. Me and you share that one there.
Yeah. So it's like we love fasting, but the problem is that, while water is important, you also need to get electrolytes, right? Like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, where you get those from fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So water has hydrogen and oxygen, but it doesn't necessarily have all the electrolytes that we need. And so if you're on a diet where you're maybe, not getting the potassium, I know for me, I don't eat enough potassium and I feel like I'm always potassium deficient. But, a lot of these keto diets, you're not eating foods that are high in potassium, like bananas and sweet potatoes, and you're cutting a lot of those carbs out and maybe eating more of a ketogenic diet. And that actually can actually have an effect on the electrolytes that you have in the body as well, don't you think?
Oh, big time, big time. And you reminded me about a little, something else too, is that another kind of cause of chronic dehydration in some people is not eating any foods that are like rich in water content, right? Like fruits and vegetables. It's more than just the nutrients that are coming from them, but those actually serve as a hydrating mechanism for people. My son, he's 7, he has a bearded dragon, right? He gets his hydration from the lettuce that we feed him. He will never hardly ever drink his water, right? And I mean, humans really do get a lot of hydration from particular foods that they eat, particular produce, and I know that me and you share this in common. We've both gone through some pretty significant weight loss journeys, right? And I, like many people, have tried every single diet under the sun, and I only really felt balance or found something that was really maintainable and that I could systematize, when I had a truly balanced diet. I mean, like you said, there's all these extremes of the keto or the carnivore or the this and the that, right? And like, you are just leaving out huge pieces of essential, both nutrition and hydration.
Yeah, so I want you to talk a little bit about your weight loss journey, because everyone who listens to this podcast are always probably like, how do I lose another 5 pounds, another 5 pounds, that sort of thing. So I want you to just walk us through what your weight loss journey was and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking, bringing that up. I'm always happy to share that because it's just very near and dear to my heart. I have felt what it's like to really struggle for years and decades with my weight. I mean, it's very difficult. So when I was younger, I grew up, I was always, the big kid. I was always the fat kid in class. Throughout my entire childhood, I was obese, to where, my senior year of high school, I was over 300 pounds. And so I finally, luckily I'm very blessed to have a great support system. My mom and my brothers and, a personal trainer that befriended me at the time and gave me just a super heavily discounted regimen and led me on my diet program. But I was able to pretty much over the next 14 or 15 months, I went from, about 315 pounds down to about 175 pounds. I almost lost like half of myself, and it was absolutely life-changing. Now I'm about 205 to 210, so over time I've built up a little bit of muscle mass, but it really does, like, my health really was at a really early age going downhill because of, all of my excess weight. And I just, now I just have a real passion for helping people with that. I mean, not only weight loss, but just really helping people to just feel better every moment of every day, right? I mean, that's what we're all looking for. The worse you feel and the less you take care of yourself, right? The less productive you're going to be. The less you're going to be able to do for yourself, for your family, for your organization, right? But yeah, through my weight loss journey, I just got very interested in nutrition and wellness and biohacking, and which just kind of informed my career path now to this point.
I don't know about you guys, but I am stressed. And if you're feeling overwhelmed this holiday season, then I get it. With all the family get-togethers, it is just a relentless source of stress. But anyway, there is something that I've got called Stress Guardian, and it's actually made by Bioptimizers, the people who make the magnesium breakthrough, which I love, love, love. But anyway, they are literally made this new product. It has 14 adaptogenic herbs, and it just regulates your stress. I just actually took some right this second, and it's awesome. If you go to stressguardian.com/wasteaway and put in waste away for 10% off your first order, it's stressguardian.com/wasteaway. Go there now.
Yeah. So a lot of people are talking about how just drinking more water is actually not the way to stay hydrated. And so this whole concept that people are talking about is that like, actually you could drink more and more water. And if you drink water, but you don't have the sodium and the other electrolytes, then you just pee out the water and it could actually make you more dehydrated. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, especially, a lot of people drink just purified water or distilled water, right? And that's like another one of those things that can really throw off your water to sodium balance and cause a lot of symptoms of dehydration as well, right? Kind of that mechanism that you're talking about. I mean, you can flood your system with as much purified water as possible. And what it's going to make you do is kind of pee out even more of some of the sodium and electrolytes that you're really trying to keep inside. So it's going to throw that balance off even more. And, to really recover from being in a state of chronic dehydration, it takes, if you're just going to be drinking and eating foods, ingesting things orally, it can take 3 to 5 days of like a really concentrated effort for your body to be able to absorb into, its blood, its tissue, your systems, that water and electrolytes is great.
Mm-hmm. So there's also people who talk about, so like if someone had the choice, if they were going to take a glass of water or if they were going to have a glass of water with electrolytes, all these different packets, or if they were going to do IV therapy, talk about the differences and which do you think hydrates you the most and why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, that's a great question. Just drinking water, like if you drink like a cup of water, you're only going to really retain in your system. I mean, even if you are really dehydrated, you're going to retain a small percentage, right? 10 to 15%, 20%. Also with it, depending on what type of water it is that you're ingesting, if it has zero of the accompanying electrolytes, right, it can lead to a little bit of imbalance there. Drinking water with an electrolyte packet, there's a lot of great products out there. I know of a ton, and I use that can be, it's probably, if you're going the oral route of really rehydrating somebody who is acutely dehydrated in the moment, like that's definitely the way to go. The IV therapy is becoming very, very popular. That's definitely by far the best and fastest way to address a state of dehydration. Because those fluids and electrolytes are going directly into your bloodstream, right? When you're ingesting something into your stomach, your body has to force it through all these systems and filters, right? And some of it gets lost in this process. It takes hours and hours to get there. Versus intravenously, you're soaking it right up, right there in the moment. And immediately you can feel the difference immediately. That's why it's getting so popular. Pretty fun statistic from IV hydration that I've always loved is that getting a liter of fluid in an IV bag, it hydrates your system and your blood to the same level as if you were to drink 2 gallons of water in 20 minutes, right? Which is impossible, for a regular human to do. That's how much you would have to have in there at one time to force its way through your system over the hours that your stomach would just be in the worst pain of ever.
I want to say that. Right? I want to say this because I don't think a lot of people know about this, but I heard a story about a girl who was doing a marathon and then she chugged a whole bunch of water really, really fast when she was done and she literally died. And it's actually, people don't talk about it, but water intoxication or hyponatremia happens when your kidneys are unable to excrete surplus fluid. And so your kidneys can only handle so much water at a time. And if you don't have the proper sodium levels and, the proper electrolytes, you can, literally die. Like There's tons of cases, believe it or not, of people running these crazy marathons and then chugging a ton of water, and it's not good for your kidneys either.
Oh yeah, not at all. I mean, and renal dysfunction and disease is, one of the biggest symptoms of chronic dehydration. I heard about that story too, right? I mean, I've heard of a few others. You hear about these water drinking competitions and stuff, but I do remember exactly what you're talking about with that marathon. It's heartbreaking, right? I mean, she's at that moment just trying to chug it down, but her system was just unable to do what it's supposed to do, right? I mean, when you're in that state, your system just can't do what it is meant to do, what it's designed for. So,
yeah. So as far as when you're talking to people, and I know that you're seeing chronic dehydration over and over and over, talk about some of the things when you see people who are chronically dehydrated. What are some things that you see, maybe skin diseases or gastric dysfunction or inflammation? Like, what are you seeing that chronic dehydration is actually producing?
Definitely. Causes a lot of skin diseases, absolutely a lot of inflammatory skin diseases, right? The gastric dysfunction is a huge one for people. I mean, that leads to, lethargy is something else, right? General low energy. But the gastric dysfunction, I think, is the biggest one when people come in and are often talking about dealing with chronic constipation or flare-ups of things like, IBS, Crohn's disease, and things like this, right? Some of these chronic inflammatory issues of the gut. So much, like a lot of that can come from, just not having enough fluid that we need, right? I mean, our body is made out of like 70% water, and that water going through your gut is absolutely essential to keep your gut clean, to feed the tissues in your gut and give them the almost like the oil to your car, right? I mean, it's like a tool that it needs to operate smoothly. Gut dysfunction has a whole host of other symptomology that will present itself, and some of it has to do, one thing that I just find so fascinating, right, is that our gut is full of neurons, right? Our gut is full of brain cells. And that's why when people say, you feel that in your gut, right? Trust your gut. You literally are thinking and trusting and feeling things emotionally in your gut, because it's the same brain cells down here as are up here. So there are a lot of other symptoms that people will have and talk about, like depression, dementia, Alzheimer's, right? So there's a lot of data that shows that chronic dehydration can lead to a lot of that stuff that starts in the gut and with your gut health. I mean, when people come to see me and are talking about some of those things, I mean, we can get them pretty instantaneous relief in the moment, and especially if we can get them on, a regular program, it just makes a world of difference.
So one misconception of hydration I've heard as like a myth is that if your pee is clear, then you're hydrated. And so I've heard people say that hydration is not about the water in your bloodstream or the urine. It's about the water inside the cells of your body. So if you're peeing clear, that simply means that the water you drink has passed from the gut to your bloodstream and out of your kidneys before ever getting inside your cells. So maybe having clear urine is not the same as hydration. So I want you to talk about that, because I think the biggest misconception that people have is that they're not forgetting the water has to get inside the cells of your body, not just going in your mouth and just
flushing right through, right? I mean, that really is. And I think that, generally for a relatively healthy person with a healthy system, that rule, it can kind of apply, but it is not nearly as all applying or strict of a rule as people have made it out to be. I remember as a kid on sports teams, right, and going to camp, they're always telling you, make sure your pee is clear today, right? Make sure, right? But, your pee can also be super clear, because you have a kidney disease, right? Or you have some other kind of issue going on in which you still are dehydrated, but your body isn't properly getting rid of certain things that it needs to get rid of or that are supposed to pass through, right? So, I mean, that is a really great point. Like, that just because you're peeing clear, it does not mean that you're truly hydrated on a cellular level. Yeah.
So let's talk about how hydration is directly tied to the inflammatory processes. Like, right now it seems like everybody has chronic inflammation, and, the process of chronic inflammation, a lot of that is a result of the lack of hydrogen, H2, that's delivered by both your microbiome in your gut and by the water, right? So talk about how, the dehydration is tied to the inflammatory processes.
The chronic inflammation and, oxidative stress are like some of our fleshy human bodies, right? Our biggest enemies in the modern world. And what is, the number one leading cause of death in America is chronic diseases. And the list goes on and on and on. We have never been really faced as a whole population with such a level of chronic disease across the board, and it's very sad. And it's kind of what also has fueled me into getting into what I do. But dehydration definitely plays a big part in your body not being able to handle and process out inflammation. I think even bigger one though is oxidative stress. That's kind of has been a humongous focus of mine in my practice and in my studies. Oxidative stress occurs in the body when there's a buildup of free radicals in your cells. These little chemicals that we call free radicals are metals, plastics, pollutants, other chemicals, right? And what these things do is they steal their electron thieves. They steal electrons from every crucial chemical process that happens in your cell, right? I mean, we're just this big fluttering thing with electricity going through us, and that electricity is what carries out every function in our body. And so the more free radicals that you have in your system, the less able your system is able to carry out those functions on the most simple level. And what's really kind of sad about it is that once you get to a certain point, if somebody hasn't really addressed like their sort of systemic oxidative stress and inflammation, what happens is chronic so inflammation by itself, like under normal circumstances, is really, it's a natural healing response of your body, right? It's a good thing. It sends immune cells and blood there, right, to help to help heal the area of the wound, whatever's going on. But inflammation also responds to oxidative stress, and so if you're not taking the steps to really curb that oxidative stress and get those free radicals out of your system, what happens when that chronic inflammation sticks around too long is it gets stuck, and it ends up damaging the tissues that are there, and depending on what tissues are damaged, this could be skin tissues or different organ tissues, that chronic inflammation is linked to pretty much every single chronic illness and disease that exists now and has ever existed in the past. One of the reasons that oxidative stress is kind of such a big thing right now is we've sort of never lived in a world with so many stressors, like our food, processed foods, sugary foods, these highly palatable foods full of preservatives, different chemicals, create a lot of oxidative stress, environmental toxins, and all of the industry, air quality, pollution, right? Stress is a big one. I mean, I kind of feel like us as a society, we are all just more stressed right now in general with kind of how quickly things are moving, our short-term attention spans, needs for instant gratification, right? And how the world is moving, we're all just very stressed. I mean, all these things lead to buildups and that oxidative stress in your body. And if you're not feeding yourself, I mean, even a lot of the perceived healthy diets in America are not don't really have like the nutrients that we need to handle those higher levels of oxidative stress, so it's just becoming more and more prevalent and just affecting, more and more people. I see it more and more all the time. That's why we're really trying to let everybody know what we're doing so we can help them out.
Guys, I just want to interrupt for just a second, and I want you to hear Paul Saladino talk about why liver is so important. And if you don't like liver, we have another option for you.
Your ancestors were eating liver. And the reason that this sort of wisdom has been passed down is because liver is very nutritious. It's basically nature's multivitamin. If you look at the nutrients in meat, they're great. You've got zinc, you got B6, you got B12, you got some K2. But if you look at liver, it really complements what's in muscle meat. And there are many unique nutrients found in organs, specifically liver as a powerhouse of these, that are difficult to obtain outside of liver. Like meat and organs are like peanut butter and jelly. They just go together. They're supposed to be eaten together. The easiest way to eat liver is just to do it raw. If you don't want to eat liver raw, you can cook it. But the reason that I like to do it raw is because there are unique nutrients in liver that are probably somewhat degraded when you cook the liver.
This really is like the most nutrient-rich supplements that you can find, and they are amazing. I have tried them. I absolutely love them. So just go to heartandsoil.co, use the coupon code Chantel Ray, and save you some money there. So I know that you're a big fan of getting an IV, and that's one of the best ways for you to get hydrated. Talk about what are the different types of fluids. So there's a lot of people just think, okay, I go in and there's just one type of fluid that you can get in your IV, but there's not. There's more than that. Talk about the different kinds and what you recommend.
Yeah, so it kind of depends a lot, right? So when you're going to get an IV, not like at the doctor's office, but like at an IV clinic or a nutrient therapy clinic, depending on sort of the nutrients or the recipe that we're going to put in that bag will sort of affect which fluid most of the time we use. So like a general across the board, someone comes in and is just looking for some hydration, we're going to give them, what's called normal saline, which is like a 0.9% concentration of saline with some sodium and other electrolytes in there, right? That's just for your normal run-of-the-mill. So it has that sodium and it has that fluid going into you at the right balance, with something that we call osmolarity, right? As we start changing the recipes and adding, subtracting other nutrients, we may need to reduce, the concentration of the sodium in that fluid. So we'll use a half normal saline, which is a 0.45 concentration. If someone generally would not request that, we wouldn't really want to give that to somebody plain, just because that's going to throw off that balance of sodium and water in your system. We also have completely sterile water as one of our products, but we generally have that reserved for the super mega dose vitamin C. That we do for cancer clients. But it's all about dialing down the osmolarity for people to where that fluid is the right balance and concentration, so that your blood and body is going to really know what to do with it. It's going to carry those nutrients into those cells in the right way. We do have like kind of one option, sort of, so to speak, is lactated ringers are very popular. That is kind of like our regular saline solution, that 0.9 saline solution, but the lactated ringer just comes automatically built in with additional potassium and magnesium, two other crucial electrolytes. So a lot of clients will request the lactated ringer just as a choice. But in total we have four different kinds of fluids that we use.
Awesome. Let's talk about NAD, because now I'm hearing that, NAD seems like it's all the rage. My husband actually did a few IV drips. I think he did like 6 IV drips of NAD, and he swears by it. He's just like, I'm telling you, it changed everything. He's just like a huge fan of it. And what would you say, first of all, for people who don't know, what is NAD? Why is it so powerful? And do you agree? Like, is this kind of a game changer? And What's your opinion?
Big time game changer. NAD was, the first thing that I learned about that even steered me toward this industry. I use NAD very regularly, and all of my family, friends, and loved ones, and anyone I care about, I make sure that they also regularly use NAD. So NAD is it's all the rage in the anti-aging community right now. It's anti-aging technologies are becoming increasingly popular and studied and getting more effective. And NAD has been very, very popular in the anti-aging community for years now. So really, just to put it simply, what it does is it's an essential building block or ingredient into making repair enzymes in your cells, repair enzymes of all kinds. And the biggest one of the biggest benefits to highlight is specifically DNA damage repair enzymes and our DNA damage repair chains, right? So DNA damage, our DNA gets damaged all the time by everything in life. Lack of sleep, you hit your arm on, so your DNA is always getting damaged all the time. And our body has the capability, when fed properly, to repair the damage to that DNA. So our DNA is the software that runs our hardware, right? So software with less errors and viruses, right, is going to operate whatever equipment it's running more efficiently. And NAD is directly involved in 6 out of the body's 8 DNA damage repair systems. But the real reason it's big in the anti-aging community is that as we get older, our body, loses its capability to create NAD on its own. That's one of the things that leads to the symptoms of aging. A lot of the anti-aging folks are looking at aging as a disease now with symptoms that can be treatable. So some of the symptoms of aging, right? Your DNA takes on more damage over time. Your body is less able to make repair enzymes, so you repair less efficiently. You're more sore after physical exercise. When you get sick, it hits you a little harder. Your cells will begin to degenerate faster than they regenerate. Your ocular cells will start to not work as well, not be able to generate as efficiently, right? When you get a cut, you're not going to heal as quickly, right? All these things that happen as we age, a lot of that comes from your body just having way less NAD available, right? So when you flood your body with high doses of NAD, it fills you up with repair enzymes, right? Which just enhances the potential for repair processes to take place that wouldn't be able to take place otherwise without that supplementation, because your body will simply stop creating NAD. Eventually you run out of it, and then bye-bye, So the NAD therapy is very, very important, big to me. That's one that I use religiously. It has just a tremendous effect on my personal life. My parents, right? My brothers, all these people that I want to keep feeling good and keep around as long as I can. We all feel the drastic benefits of it. For me, it gives me an incredible sort of mental edge. As a young business owner, I'm grinding, and I know you know exactly what that's like. And the NAD therapy really helps me to stay in high gear, and I can feel it when I don't have it. I think what it really does for me is it makes my rest much more efficient, so that when I wake up, even if maybe I didn't get the best night of sleep, like that time period that I am asleep, my body's repairing itself. It's repairing itself really well. So that's really cool that your husband kind of went through a six pack treatment of it and felt real benefit from it. That's so awesome.
Did you guys know that your thyroid's main food is iodine? And guess what? Mercury and other toxins gobble up your selenium, and your thyroid glands need selenium to convert iodine to thyroxine. So if you have mercury fillings and with all the toxins and mold, your selenium just gets gobbled up. So here's the bottom line. I take something called Peak Thyroid. It's got iodine, it's got copper, and it's got selenium. Everything you need to get your thyroid back to functioning without medicine. So go to chantelrayway.com/upgraded formulas. Use the coupon code ChantelRay to get a huge discount. Well, I'm going to read you a listener question. It's from Sandy Williamson in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I love Charlotte. What's up, Sandy?
She says, I've lost 24 pounds so far by doing intermittent fasting. You just finished reading your latest book, One Meal and a Tasting, and lost another 5 pounds. Woo-hoo. So thank you for that. She said, after putting those tips in place from the book, one more thing I started doing is getting IVs with glutathione. And I've heard you say on your podcast you have a few skin issues. And I have some skin issues, but a little bit different. I have acne and rosacea. And I wanted to tell you I've been doing IV drips that include glutathione. I also have been doing IVs because I've been doing so much intermittent fasting that I have a lot of problems with constipation. I've heard you talk about constipation, and I just thought I'd give you that tip that the IVs have been helping. Much love and keep on doing what you're doing, Sandy Williamson.
Oh, that's so cool. You're awesome, Sam. Well, I'm so happy to hear about that. Congratulations on all that, too. That's amazing.
Yeah, so let's talk about what she said. Have you seen people use... First of all, I want you to say what is it that you're seeing that has had the biggest impact on people? Like for her, she's saying the glutathione and she's saying the IVs. I guess like what you were saying, I always talk about constipation. So I think it's so cute. Everyone... I talk about it because it's a major problem for me. And so people kind of write in and give me tips, right? Like
yeah, that's cool. I love it.
They're always like, I heard you talk on the podcast about constipation. And so I guess her getting these regular weekly IVs are helping her with the constipation that she has. Because the one thing I will say, if you do intermittent fasting or even doing extended fasting, it really can cause some constipation depending on what you're eating in your eating window and so forth.
Absolutely. Big time. I have felt it before too.
So share your eating window and kind of what you do if you're going to get an IV, what's kind of your favorite go-tos?
That's so cool that you mentioned the glutathione specifically, because I very often will start clients off with a little bit of a glutathione regimen. Glutathione is considered like the king of all antioxidants, right? Oxidative stress occurs in your body, which leads to inflammatory issues like acne, some of the other things you talked about, inflammatory gut issues, right? Oxidative stress happens when there are more free radicals than antioxidants. And glutathione is an incredibly potent antioxidant. It has the ability to bind to so many different free radicals, right? That's really what antioxidants do, is the free radicals are trying to steal electrons from your cells. And then the antioxidants come in and they bind to those free radicals, basically kind of make them non-existent, null and void. And glutathione is so effective because it can bind with so many different free radicals that affect us in our body, So I recommend people getting glutathione regularly. Add that on every week or every 2 weeks, playing with the dose depending on how you're feeling, but the glutathione is huge for skin health as well. A lot of people regularly will use glutathione, to sort of just brighten their skin and help to push out toxins and free radicals in your skin tissue. Glutathione is really, really effective and with that. So that's really cool.
All right. So this is another question from Wendy Denmarco from Houston, Texas.
What's up, Wendy?
She said, I just watched this video on TikTok that talks about B12 shots and that it has cyanide in it. Do you think that's true? I heard there's 2 different types, and she kind of goes on, and I'm not going to continue on. But let's just stop right there and answer that question. Does some of the B12 shots and some of the B12 that goes in, does it have cyanide in it? And how would you avoid that?
In my experience, I have never come across that in any of my clinics or within my network whatsoever. I think that I have heard of this before. I have never encountered it, and I've been in the IV world for a little while now. I think the real way to confirm, and it is great that Wendy brings that up too, because I have had clients come to me and say, "Hey, can I see your vial of B12?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Right? That it all comes from United States compounding pharmacies, but most often a higher quality place who's going to be offering B12 shots is just going to give you methylcobalamin, which is methylated B12, and it's just its purest form. That's what your gut transforms it into when you eat food with B12 in it. So that cobalamin. So we do methylcobalamin in there, no cyanide whatsoever. So I would say if you are worried, like if you're going to a place that's giving B12 shots, you have any worry whatsoever about that, and just ask them to see their products. If you have nothing to hide, we're always out there.
I know for a fact there are IV places out there, and so I will just say this: what you just said, the form that you want is methylcobalamin.
Yes.
But there's cyanocobalamin, which is the artificial form of vitamin B12, which the body converts into an active form of methylcobalamin. But that cyanocobalamin B12 does contain a cyanide molecule. And so for me, I always ask, if I'm going somewhere, I say, am I getting methylcobalamin or is this cyanocobalamin?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's always the best practice, right? It's extremely important to know exactly what's going in your body. And there's, unfortunately, in this world, there's a lot of people that are going to tell you what you want to hear and just give it to you anyways. So I love the fact that she brought that question up, because that's just a great point in general. Anyone who is considering going to get IV therapy wherever you're at, right? That's generally a great practice. So hats off to you, Andy.
Yeah. And then let's talk about, back to what we said, what is the nutrient that you're seeing? If you had to say, the majority of people, they're mostly deficient in this when we give them this. Obviously, there's so many different things, right, that people could get. There's, B12, there's all the B complex, the amino acids, magnesium. But if you said, if you're only going to go in, the top two that I see people are deficient in is what?
I would think I would say that I see, we have over 30 different nutrients on our menu. I see people have the very most drastic benefit from one of our simplest ones that we don't even put in the bags because it's fat soluble. It's vitamin D. Vitamin D, that's our simplest, cheapest service that has my testimonials from my clients who come in and just try vitamin D are off the charts, because 96% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. In order to really naturally produce what your body would need, you would need to be outside in the sun with a surface area exposure level of your skin of basically being naked for 2 hours in the sunshine. And no one does that. I'm wearing long sleeves right now. I'm inside a building. Right? No one is really getting that exposure. We used to, way back in the day, to what our biological form evolved to, right? We used to be outside all the time. It wasn't really as much of a concern, so the vitamin D has, I think what I see it have the biggest effect on people is they say their mood. They will say that, I've had some people, they're like, there's no way we're going to have a needle stuck in us, right? They get one vitamin D shot and they're like, oh, nothing has changed my mood like that in years. Help me get over grief, or help me get over this spell of just feeling down and lethargic, unproductive, right? That one's a very good one. I think the other two that people are going to get the greatest benefit from are vitamin C and NAD. The NAD that we were talking about. I mean, vitamin C is another one of those just king of antioxidants, just really strengthens your system, helps you to produce all kinds of other essential nutrients that your body is going to use. So vitamin C is a lot more than just soaking up the vitamin C. It's going to promote you creating all kinds of other nutrients that your system really needs.
I love it. Well, this has been amazing. Tell listeners where they can find you, where they can follow you.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I so appreciate you having me. This really was such a pleasure. They can find us at I am one of the owners of IV Nutrition in Virginia. We have locations in Virginia Beach and Suffolk. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at IV Nutrition Va Beach or at IV Nutrition Suffolk, as well as ivnutrition.com. We do IV nutrient hydration therapy, wellness, blood testing, create customized plans for people based upon their blood data with functional medicine consultations. We do all kinds of cool stuff. So definitely check us out there and come see us.
Awesome. And I've been there. It's absolutely amazing. And I am one of those people, it's almost impossible to get blood out of me because my veins are so tiny and so small. They have this machine there that literally finds your veins. And the first second she was able to get the IV in my veins, and it was perfect. And the customer service and everything is amazing. So you guys definitely want to check it out. And you guys stay tuned. We've got another episode coming up in just a few. Bye-bye for now.